The flash of the camera is a liar. It captures a millisecond of light and convinces the world it is the whole story. The cover of Time magazine sat on the coffee table in the penthouse, glossy and perfect. Minho stood tall in the photo, his hand gripping a cane, his other hand holding roses. They looked invincible. The headline read, "The New Dynasty, How Love Broke the Chaebol System." But in the dim light of the living room, the reality was not glossy. It was sweating, shaking, and screaming in silence. Minho lay on the floor, his therapy mat soaked with perspiration. The carbon fiber cane, the prop of his public victory, was cast aside, looking like a discarded bone. His leg, the one that had supported him on stage, was currently spasming with a ferocity that made his teeth chatter. The nerve pain wasn't a sharp stab. It was a dull, electrical grinding, as if someone were dragging a serrated knife up and down his sciatic nerve. "Breathe!" Rose's voice was low, commanding, stripped of the softness she used for the cameras. She was kneeling beside him, her strong hands kneading the muscle of his calf, trying to coax the spasm into submission. "In through the nose, out through the mouth. Do not fight it, Minho. Ride the wave." "It feels like fire," Minho gasped, his knuckles white as he gripped the edge of the mat. "Make it stop, Rose. God, just make it stop." "I am trying," she whispered, wiping sweat from his forehead with her sleeve. "But the nerves are waking up. Waking up hurts." This was the truth the world didn't see. The gala had been 3 weeks ago. Since then, the adrenaline of the takeover had faded, replaced by the grueling, ugly work of recovery. Minho wasn't cured. He was incomplete. The doctors called it an incomplete spinal injury. It meant he could walk sometimes. It meant he had sensation sometimes. But mostly it meant he lived in a purgatory between the chair and the world of the upright. And while Minho fought his body, Rose was fighting a war she hadn't anticipated. She finished the massage, her hands cramping from the effort. Once Minho's breathing evened out, she helped him into the wheelchair. He hated the chair now. He looked at it with disdain, a symbol of a regression he refused to accept. "I need to check the emails," Minho muttered, wheeling himself toward his desk. "The board meeting for the foundation is tomorrow. We need to approve the budget for the clinic in Lagos." Rose stood up, smoothing her skirt. She didn't tell him. She couldn't tell him, not while he was in this much pain. "Minho," she said cautiously, "maybe we should push the meeting back." "Why?" He spun the chair around, his eyes narrowing. "We have the capital. The settlement money cleared yesterday." "Did it?" Rose asked. She walked to the window, looking out at the Seoul skyline. It was raining, a gray, miserable drizzle that blurred the neon lights. "What aren't you telling me?" Minho's voice dropped an octave. The CEO was back. Rose turned. "The bank called this morning. The settlement funds from the Hanwell liquidation, they have been frozen." Minho stared at her. "Frozen? On what grounds? My father signed the confession. The deal was done." "Not by the government," Rose said, crossing her arms. "By a civic group. The Citizens for Corporate Integrity. They filed an injunction claiming that since I am a foreign national with, according to them, questionable credentials, the transfer of Korean assets to a foundation I co-chair constitutes economic espionage." Minho scoffed, a harsh, ugly sound. "That's ridiculous. You have credentials. You're a trauma specialist. We released your transcripts." "They don't care about transcripts, Minho," Rose said, her voice trembling with suppressed rage. She walked over to the coffee table and picked up a tablet. She swiped open a page and handed it to him. It was a popular Korean forum. The thread had over 50,000 upvotes. The title, "The Black Witch Who Stole Our Prince." Minho read the comments. She drugged him. "Look at his eyes in the photo. He's not in control. Why is our money going to Africa? We have poor people here. Deport her. She's a fraud. If I see her on the street, I will spit on her." Minho threw the tablet onto the couch. "Internet trolls, they mean nothing." "They mean something when they have lawyers," Rose said. The injunction is real. The funds are locked for at least 6 months pending an investigation into my visa status and my medical history. They are looking for anything, Minho. A parking ticket, a missed form, a gap in my employment history from 10 years ago. We will countersue, Minho said, gripping the armrests. I will call the legal team. The legal team is gone, Minho, Rose reminded him gently. You fired the Hanwell retainer firm because they were loyal to your father. Our new lawyer is one man, Mr. Kim. He is good, but he is drowning. Minho closed his eyes. The pain in his leg flared again, a rhythmic thumping in time with his heartbeat. He had thought the war was over. He thought exposing the corruption was the end. But he had forgotten the most fundamental rule of power. The system protects itself. He had cut off the head of the snake by jailing his father and brother, but the body of the snake, the xenophobia, the corporate protectionism, the rigid hierarchy, was still thrashing. I'm sorry, Minho whispered. Rose looked at him, surprised. For what? For dragging you into the light, he said. In the shadows of this apartment, you were safe. Now, you are a target because of me. I was always a target, Rose said, walking over and placing a hand on his shoulder. In the hospital, I was the loud nurse. On the street, I am the foreigner. This is just a bigger stage. But Minho, we have a problem bigger than money. What? The Foundation's visa sponsorship for me, she said. It was contingent on the funds being active. If the accounts are frozen, the immigration office can argue that the Foundation is not a viable entity. If they do that, they revoke your visa, Minho finished, the blood draining from his face. I have 30 days, Rose said. 30 days to prove the Foundation is solvent, or I am deported. Minho looked at his shaking hands. He looked at the cane. He looked at the woman who was the only reason he was breathing. The fear that gripped him wasn't the fear of poverty. He had been poor for a month. He could survive that. It was the fear of silence, the fear of this apartment without her humming in the kitchen, without the smell of shea butter and spices, without her strength holding up his broken spine. They want a war? Minho said, his voice turning cold, the same tone he had used to bankrupt his brother. They think because I am in a chair, I am weak? They think because you are foreign, you are easy? He reached for the phone. Who are you calling? Rose asked. The BBC, Minho said. We gave them the financial files. Now I'm going to give them the social files, the emails between the board members, the racist jokes, the plans to gentrify neighborhoods. If they want to play in the mud, Rose, I will bury them in it. No, Rose said. She took the phone from his hand. Rose, if you leak more, you look like a bitter, unstable man destroying his own heritage. That is the narrative they are painting. That you are mentally unfit, Rose said, her eyes intense. We cannot fight them with anger. We have to fight them with excellence. Excellence doesn't pay lawyers, Minho shouted. No, but truth does, Rose said. There is one person who can stop the injunction, one person whose testimony would invalidate the claims of economic espionage. Who? Your father, Rose said. The room went deadly silent. My father is in solitary confinement, Minho spat. He hates you. He hates me. He would sooner die than help us. He sent a letter, Rose said, quietly. Minho froze. To who? To me. Rose reached into her pocket and pulled out a small, crumpled envelope with the seal of the Seoul Detention Center. He wants to see me. Alone. Absolutely not, Minho said, grabbing the wheels of his chair. Burn it. He is manipulating you. He wants to hurt you. He says he has information, Rose said, holding the letter out of his reach. Information about the past, about the Foundation's assets. Minho, if he testifies that the funds were a gift from your mother, the injunction falls apart. The freeze is lifted. We win. And what is the price? Minho demanded. My father never gives gifts. He makes trades. What does he want? I don't know, Rose lied. She knew exactly what the letter implied. It hinted at a secret so dark it made the embezzlement look like a misdemeanor, but she couldn't tell Minho. Not yet. He was too fragile, physically and emotionally. "I forbid you to go," Minho said, his voice shaking. "You do not forbid me." "Anything, Minho," Rose said, her voice hardening. "I am your partner, not your employee, and I am fighting for my life here. If I don't fix this visa issue, I'm on a plane to Lagos in 4 weeks. Do you want that?" Minho stared at her, his chest heaving. "No." "Then let me do this my way." She turned and walked out of the living room. Minho watched her go. He felt a crack forming in the foundation of their relationship. It wasn't a crack caused by lack of love. It was caused by the weight of the world pressing down on two people who were trying to hold up the sky with broken arms. Minho looked at the cane on the floor. He gritted his teeth. He reached down, his back screaming in protest, and grabbed the handle. He pulled himself up. His legs shook violently. He leaned his weight onto the carbon fiber. He took one step, then another. He would walk. He would get strong. And if his father tried to touch Rose, Minho would walk into that prison and tear the bars down himself. But he didn't know that the trap had already been sprung, and the bait wasn't money. It was history. The Seoul Detention Center was a monolith of gray concrete and razor wire, a stark contrast to the glass and steel elegance of the city it served. Inside, the air was recycled and cold, smelling of bleach and despair. Rose sat in the private visitation room, her hands folded neatly in her lap. She wore a simple navy suit, her hair pulled back in a severe bun. She looked professional, detached, unbreakable. But inside, her heart was hammering a rhythm of pure fear. The door on the other side of the plexiglass buzzed open. 2 guards escorted an old man in. Chairman Han looked like a ghost of the titan he had been. His prison uniform hung loosely on his frame. His hair, once dyed a rich, commanding black, was now snow-white and thinning. But his eyes were the same. Sharp, calculating, reptilian. He sat down slowly, picking up the receiver. Rose did the same. "Miss Adebayo," he said. His voice was raspy, stripped of the booming authority of the boardroom, but the malice remained. "You look tired. Being the savior of the poor is exhausting work, is it not?" "I am not here for small talk, Chairman," Rose said, her voice steady. "You asked to see me. You said you could help lift the asset freeze." Chairman Han chuckled, a dry, rattling sound. "Direct. I always liked that about you. It's a shame you were born in the wrong continent. You would have made a terrifying executive." He leaned closer to the glass. "The asset freeze is a nuisance. I can make one call to the head of the citizens group, an old friend of mine, and it vanishes. The visa issue? Gone. You stay in Korea. You play nurse to my son. You build your little clinics." "And the price?" Rose asked. "Minho stops," Han said. "He stops the releases. He stops the interviews. He dismantles the foundation's investigation arm. He can keep the charity, the soup kitchens, the photos ops. But he stops digging into the archives." "The archives are public now," Rose said. "We released the financial data." "Not the financial data," Han whispered. "The operational data, the subsidiary reports from the 90s. Rose frowned. "What are you hiding? The company is dead. What could be worse than what we already found?" Han smiled. It was a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Tell me, Rose, your father, he was a miner, yes? In a village near Enugu?" Rose went still. The air in the room seemed to vanish. "How do you know that?" "He died in a collapse," Han continued, reciting the facts as if reading a grocery list. 1998. The mine was structurally unsound. The supports gave way, paralyzed him from the waist down. He died 3 years later from sepsis. "Stop it," Rose whispered. Her hands were trembling. "Do you know who owned that mine, Rose?" Han asked softly. Rose stared at him. The horror began to creep up her spine, cold and paralyzing. "No, it was a local company." Nigerian Delta. Resources. A shell company, Han said. Wholly owned by Hanwell Heavy Industries. My company. The world tilted. Rose gripped the ledge of the table. Her father. Her hero. The man whose suffering had defined her entire life's purpose. He hadn't just been killed by bad luck. He had been killed by Hanwell, by the very fortune that was now paying for her apartment, her clothes, her food. She felt bile rise in her throat. She was sleeping in a bed bought with blood money. She was in love with the son of the man who killed her father. "You are lying," she hissed. "You are trying to break us." "Check the files," Han said, looking bored. "Search for Project Obsidian. It's all there. Minho doesn't know, of course. He was a child. He thinks his mother's money is clean. It isn't. It all comes from the same dirt, Rose." He leaned back. "Here is the deal. You convince Minho to stop digging. You let the past stay buried. I lift the freeze. You get your visa. You use the blood money to save 1,000 other children. A fair trade, don't you think? Or you tell him. You break his heart. You tell him that every bite of food he takes is paid for by your father's spine. And then, when the truth comes out, the Nigerian government sues. The international court sees everything. The foundation goes bankrupt. Minho is left with nothing, no money for therapy, no home, just shame." Rose couldn't breathe. It was a master stroke of cruelty. If she fought, she destroyed Minho and the foundation. If she submitted, she became an accomplice to her father's murder. "Why?" Rose whispered. "Why tell me?" "Because you are pragmatic," Han said. "Minho is an idealist. He would burn the world down to apologize. You know that sometimes, to save the patient, you have to cut off the limb. Save him, Rose, by silencing him." The buzzer sounded. Time was up. Chairman Han stood. "You have 24 hours. Silence or total ruin." He walked away. Rose sat there, staring at her reflection in it. The plexiglass. She looked like a stranger. She left the prison in a daze. It was raining harder now. She didn't open her umbrella. She let the water soak her, trying to wash away the feeling of filth that coated her skin. She took a taxi back to the penthouse. The elevator ride felt like an ascent to the gallows. How could she look at Minho? How could she kiss him? Every time she touched him now, she would see the mine collapse. She would hear her father's screams. She opened the door. The penthouse was warm. The smell of roasted chicken filled the air. Minho was in the kitchen. He was standing, leaning heavily against the counter, yes, but standing. He was chopping vegetables. "Rose!" He turned, a smile lighting up his face. It was the first genuine smile in weeks. "I did it. I stood for 20 minutes. Look." He let go of the counter. He wobbled, his legs shaking, but he held his balance. "I'm getting stronger. We're going to beat them, Rose. I found a loophole in the Teo injunction. If we reclassify the funds as humanitarian aid." He stopped. He saw her face. He saw the water dripping from her hair, the hollowness in her eyes. "Rose?" He grabbed his cane and limped toward her. "What happened? Did the lawyer call?" Rose looked at him. She looked at this man who had fought so hard to be good, to be different from his father. If she told him it would destroy him, he would hate himself, he would reject the inheritance, he would end up destitute, and the foundation, the only thing that could actually help people, would die. She made a choice, a terrible, heavy choice. "No," Rose lied, her voice sounding dead to her own ears. I went for a walk. I'm tired, Minho." "You went to the prison," Minho said. Rose froze. Minho pulled his phone from his pocket. "The security log. It alerts me when the car leaves the garage. You took the town car to the detention center." His face wasn't angry yet. It was confused, hurt. "Why did you lie? What did he say?" "Minho, please," Rose said, backing away. "Not tonight." "Did he threaten you?" Minho stepped closer. "Did he offer you money to leave me? Is that it?" No. Then what? Minho shouted. The cane clattered to the floor as he grabbed her shoulders to steady himself. We are partners. No secrets. What did he say? He told me how to save the money, Rose whispered, tears mixing with the rain on her face. But we have to stop the investigation. And you considered it? Minho looked at her with disbelief. Rose, that's corruption. That's exactly what we fought against. It's not that simple, Rose screamed, pushing him back. It's not just numbers on a screen. It's lives. If we lose the money, the clinic in Lagos closes. The children die. Is your pride worth more than their lives? It's not pride, it's integrity, Minho roared. If we build on a lie, we are just like him. Maybe we have to be a little like him to survive, Rose yelled. The words hung in the air, toxic and wrong. Minho stared at her. He looked at her as if he didn't know her. Who are you? He whispered. The Rose I fell in love with would never say that. What did he do to you? Rose looked at him, her heart breaking into 1,000 shards. She couldn't tell him the truth. She couldn't put the burden of her father's death on his shoulders. He was too fragile. Maybe I'm just tired of losing, Minho, she said softly. Maybe I'm just a maid who wants to be safe. It was a lie designed to hurt, and it worked. Minho recoiled as if she had slapped him. Get out, he said. His voice was shattered glass. Minho, I said get out. He stumbled back, grabbing the counter for support. Go to a hotel. I can't look at you right now. Rose nodded. She didn't fight. She grabbed her bag, which she hadn't even unpacked. I'll fix the money, she said, her voice hollow. I'll fix the visa, but I can't stay here. She turned and walked out the door. Minho didn't stop her. He listened to the click of the latch. Then the silence rushed back in, louder and heavier than ever before. He slid down the cabinet to the floor, his leg throbbing, alone in the empire of dust he had created. The penthouse felt like a tomb. 3 days had passed since Rose walked out. The silence was physical. It pressed against Minho's eardrums. There was no humming, no smell of spices, no warm hand to massage the cramps out of his legs at 3 a.m. Minho sat in his wheelchair by the window, staring at the city. He hadn't shaved. He had barely eaten. The delivery boxes of takeout food were piled on the counter, unopened. He felt abandoned. The old narrative, the one his father had drilled into him since birth, began to whisper in his ear. Everyone leaves. You are broken. You are a burden. She was only there for the drama, for the savior complex. Now that it's hard, she's gone. He looked at the bottle of painkillers on the table. It would be so easy to numb the leg, to numb the heart. Just take 2, or 3, or 10. He reached for the bottle. His hand trembled. Then he saw it. Under the table where Rose had dropped her bag during their fight, a small notebook had fallen out. It was a cheap, spiral-bound notepad she carried everywhere. Minho hesitated, then leaned down and picked it up. He opened it. It wasn't a diary. It was a ledger, but not of money. Patient. Mrs. Kim. Needs heating oil. Paid. Patient. Little Jiwoo. Needs insulin. Paid. My father. Memorial date, November 12th. Note. I miss you, Papa. I hope I'm making you proud. I hope this money cleans the stain. Minho frowned. Cleans the stain? He flipped back a few pages. He found notes from the day of the prison visit. The handwriting was shaky, jagged. Project Obsidian, 1998, Nigerian Delta Resources. Hanwell ownership 100%. Collapse caused by negligence. Papa died because of Minho's inheritance. I cannot tell him. It will kill him. I must carry this alone. Minho stopped breathing. The book fell from his hands. The room spun. The pieces clicked together with the violence of a car crash. The reason she lied. The reason she wanted to stop the investigation. She wasn't trying to save herself. She was trying to save him. She was protecting him from the knowledge that his family had murdered hers. "Oh my God," Minho whispered. He covered his mouth with his hand. "Rose." He looked at the painkillers again. Then he looked at the cane. A fury ignited in his gut, not at Rose, at himself, for doubting her, for being so wrapped up in his own pain that he couldn't see the mountain she was carrying for him, and at his father, the monster who had weaponized a daughter's grief to silence a son's conscience. "No," Minho said. He grabbed the wheels of his chair. "No more." He didn't take the pills. He wheeled himself to the bathroom. He shaved. He cut himself twice because his hands were shaking, but he didn't stop. He showered, scrubbing the self-pity off his skin. He dressed in a suit. It was difficult, buttoning the shirt with stiff fingers, pulling on the trousers over his dead-weight legs. But he did it. He went to the living room. He didn't call Rose. She wouldn't answer. He called Mr. Kim, the lawyer. "Mr. Kim," Minho said. His voice was raspy but clear. "Prepare a press conference tomorrow morning." "Sir, with the injunction we should lay low." "No," Minho interrupted. "I'm releasing everything. Project Obsidian, the shell companies, the mining reports, everything." "Sir, that's suicide. The Foundation's assets will be seized. You will be penniless." "I don't care about the money," Minho said. "I care about the truth. And get me the address of the hotel where Rose Adebayo is staying." I can try, sir." "Don't try. Do it." Minho hung up. He looked at the cane leaning against the wall. "We have work to do," he said to the empty room. He wheeled himself to the makeshift gym Rose had built. He got out of the chair. He grabbed the parallel bars. He pulled himself up. Pain exploded in his lower back. He screamed, a guttural sound of agony, but he didn't let go. 1 step, for her father. 2 steps, for her silence. 3 steps, for the woman who saved him. He fell. He hit the mat hard. He lay there, gasping, sweat pooling around him, but he didn't stay down. He crawled back to the bars. He pulled himself up again. Meanwhile, in a cheap motel room on the outskirts of Seoul, Rose lay on a lumpy mattress, staring at the ceiling. She had been crying for 2 days. She felt hollowed out. Her phone buzzed. She ignored it. It buzzed again and again. A relentless stream of notifications. She picked it up. A breaking news alert. Liv Han Minho press conference. The sins of the father. Rose sat up. She clicked the link. Minho was on the screen. He was sitting at a table in front of a microphone. He looked tired, pale, but his eyes were burning with a terrifying intensity. "Ladies and gentlemen," Minho said to the camera, "for weeks I have tried to save my company's money to do good, but I realized recently that you cannot build a house on a graveyard." He held up a file. Rose recognized the code name on the cover. Project Obsidian. "No," Rose whispered, pressing her hand to the screen. "Minho, don't." "This report," Minho continued, his voice wavering slightly, "details an illegal mining operation in Nigeria in 1998, an operation that ignored safety protocols to save costs, an operation that resulted in the death of 30 men. The room on the screen went silent. Flashbulbs popped. "One of those men," Minho said, looking directly into the lens, as if he could see Rose through the fiber optics, "was the father of the woman I love, Rose Adebayo." Rose covered her mouth, a sob escaping her throat. "My family killed her family," Minho said. "And yet she came here. She saved my life. She tried to protect me from this truth, because she has a heart bigger than I deserve. But I will not let her carry this burden alone." He dropped the file on the table. "I am hereby liquidating all remaining personal assets. Every one, every share, every property. The proceeds will go directly to the families of the victims of Project Obsidian, starting with the Adebayo family. I am bankrupting myself to pay a debt that can never fully be paid." He paused. "And to the citizens group trying to deport her. If you want to attack someone, attack me. I am the criminal's son. She is the victim. Leave her alone." Minho stood up. He didn't use the cane. He gripped the table, his knuckles white, and he stood. He stood for 10 seconds, long enough to bow deeply to the camera. "Rose," he said, still bowed. "Please come home." The feed cut to black. Rose stared at the blank phone. The tears were flowing freely now, but they weren't tears of despair. They were tears of release, he knew. And he hadn't chosen the money. He hadn't chosen the legacy. He had chosen her. She grabbed her coat. She didn't wait for a taxi. She ran to the subway station. She had to get to him. The lobby of the penthouse building was swarming with reporters, but security, paid for by the last of Minho's liquid cash, held them back. Rose pushed through the crowd, ignoring the microphones shoved in her face. "Miss Adebayo, is it true? Did you know?" She burst into the elevator and slammed the button for the penthouse. The ascent felt agonizingly slow. Her heart was beating so fast she thought it might bruise her ribs. The doors opened. The apartment was quiet. The takeout boxes were gone. The curtains were open, letting the afternoon sun flood the room. Minho was sitting on the sofa, his leg propped up on the ottoman. He looked exhausted, drained of all color. He looked up when she entered. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The air was thick with the weight of the history that had just been rewritten. Rose dropped her bag. She walked across the room. She didn't run. She walked with purpose. She knelt in front of him. "You fool," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "You absolute fool. You gave it all away? Everything?" "It wasn't mine," Minho said softly, reaching out to touch her face. "It was never mine. It was blood money. I just returned it." "You have nothing left," Rose said, searching his eyes. "No company, no fortune. You are just a man with a bad leg and a rented apartment." "I have you," Minho said. "If you'll still have me." Rose leaned forward and kissed him. It wasn't a tentative kiss. It was a kiss of reclamation. It tasted of salt and grief and hope. She wrapped her arms around his neck, burying her face in his shoulder. "I'm sorry," she sobbed. "I should have told you. I was so afraid it would break you." "It did break me," Minho said, stroking her hair. "But you taught me that bones heal stronger where they break." He pulled back and looked at her. "The lawyers say the visa issue will be dropped. The public sympathy has swung. You are a martyr now, not a villain. But the foundation, it will be smaller. We have to start from scratch." "Good." Rose wiped her eyes, a fierce smile touching her lips. "I prefer scratch. It's honest." 6 months later. The opening of the Adebayo Han Trauma Center was not a black tie gala. There were no chandeliers. There was no champagne. It was held in the courtyard of a renovated warehouse in the industrial district of Seoul. The building was clean, bright, and smelled of fresh paint. A twin facility was opening simultaneously in Enugu, Nigeria, live-streamed on a large screen behind the podium. The crowd was a mix of locals, immigrants, disabled rights activists, and curious onlookers. Minho stood at the podium. He leaned on a sleek, matte black cane. He didn't hide it. He wore a suit, but it was off the rack, not bespoke. He looked healthier, broader in the shoulders. The look of a man who worked for his living. "Welcome," Minho said. His voice didn't boom, it resonated. "This center is not a gift from a billionaire. It is a promise kept by 2 survivors." He gestured to the side. Rose stepped up. She wore a white doctor's coat over a vibrant Ankara dress. She looked regal, professional, and undeniably powerful. "Trauma steals your voice," Rose said into the microphone. "It tells you that you are alone, but we are here to say that you are not." She looked at Minho. He looked back. The connection between them was palpable, a live wire of shared strength. After the speeches, as the crowd mingled and toured the facility, a woman approached them. It was June. Minho's ex-fiancée looked perfect, as always. Designer bag, flawless makeup, but her eyes were cold. "Quite a charming little project," June said, looking around the modest courtyard with thinly veiled disdain. "You know, Minho, everyone is saying you lost your mind. giving away the fortune. We could have ruled the city. Minho looked at her. He remembered how desperate he had been for her approval. Now she looked like a relic from a museum he no longer visited. I don't want to rule the city, June, Minho said calmly. I just want to live in it. And you? June turned to Rose, a sneer forming. I suppose you're happy. You got your claws into him. Rose smiled. It was a smile of pure, unbothered peace. I didn't use claws, June. I used hands. You should try using yours for something other than holding handbags. It's very fulfilling. June scoffed, turning on her heel. You'll be broke in a year. She walked away, her heels clicking on the pavement. Minho watched her go, feeling absolutely nothing. He turned to Rose. Are we broke? He asked, a playful glint in his eye. Technically, yes, Rose laughed, but the grant money comes in next week, and I make a very good stew. We won't starve. I have a surprise for you, Minho said. He reached into his pocket. He didn't pull out a diamond ring. That ring was gone, sold to pay for the MRI machine inside. He pulled out a simple band made of twisted silver and copper. I made this, Minho said. In occupational therapy. It's not perfect. It's a little uneven. Rose gasped. She took the ring. It was rough, handmade, and to her, more beautiful than the crown jewels. Rose Adebayo, Minho said, shifting his weight on his cane so he could look her in the eye. Will you marry me? I can't promise you a penthouse, but I can promise you that I will walk beside you every single day for the rest of my life. Rose didn't hesitate. She slid the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly. Yes, she whispered. Yes, you stubborn, beautiful man. Minho dropped his cane. He grabbed her waist with both hands, trusting his legs, trusting her, trusting them. He kissed her, and the crowd around them cheered. On the screen behind them, the staff in Nigeria were cheering too. Two worlds, once separated by oceans and lies, now bridged by a love that had paid the ultimate price for peace. Minho broke the kiss, breathless. He looked at his wife. Ready to get to work, Dr. Han? Rose grinned. Ready when you are, Mr. Han. They turned together, arm in arm, and walked into the building they had built from the ashes. They didn't limp, they marched. Some love stories don't end with riches. They end with truth, with scars that remain visible, and choices that cost everything. Minho and Rose didn't win because they were powerful. They won because they refused to lie to themselves, or to each other. And maybe that's the hardest kind of victory. If this story moved you, if it made you angry, hopeful, uncomfortable, or emotional, please don't scroll away in silence. Like this video so this story can reach someone who needs it. Share it with a friend who believes love should mean more than money. And subscribe to this channel for more Afro-Korean stories that dig deeper than surface romance. I really want to hear from you. Did Minho make the right choice by giving up everything for the truth? Or should he have protected the foundation first? Would you have told the truth if you were Rose, knowing it could destroy the person you love? Do you believe love can truly survive guilt, history, and inherited sins like this? Who do you sympathize with more, Minho or Rose, and why? And finally, do you want a continuation or a new story set in this same universe? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read them all. Your voice matters here. Until the next story, stay human, stay brave. The end.